I'll get started with lesson 3. Hey everybody, I'm going to go over first the seal of the Russian Federation. So this is the seal of Russia. It's been the seal of Russia for like 500 years, pretty much since Russia became a thing, from even back in like the Tsar times. The only time that this has not been the symbol of Russia has been when the Bolsheviks took over and the Soviet Union came about. Communism spread. This was replaced by the hammer and sickle. But after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, this symbol has came back, and it's pretty much been this exact same way the entire time. And this is a really good picture of it because what we have here is that middle crest as well, and it's pretty accurately painted here or displayed here at least. So starting from the top down, a lot here symbolically. So first we see 3 crowns. We see one over each head of the two-headed eagle, and then we see one in the middle. So this is thought to represent unity, perhaps over 3 states: Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia. Perhaps just whatever. Again, it's a symbol, so it's somewhat open for interpretation. But below, you'll see the staff, which is a scepter, I think it's called, which is a monarchical, like it's like a symbol of the monarchy. It's like what the kings used to hold as a representation of like them being the king. That's like a globe at the top. If you look up scepter, you could probably see more about it. And then the other hand, there is a uh, globe. It's like an orb that represents like Christianity, and the the Russian Orthodox Church. You'll see these. Sometimes they're suspended and like swung around. You'll see the religious figures in Russia today with something that represents that. So on one side, it represents that Russian Orthodox Christianity, and on the other side, it represents like the sovereignty and the power of the Russian state. In the middle, you'll see, and this is, to me, this is probably the coolest part. You'll see Saint George riding a horse, and he is slaying a dragon with a spear. Okay, so what does that represent? Well, this, at least to me, and what it's written to be, depicts this image or the Russian state as one that is liberating and is capable of slaying dragons and killing evil. I guess basically is being one that slays evil. The dragon representing evil, and this holy figure being the one to do it. Okay, so symbolically, that is what it is meant to represent. Okay, and with that, we'll start the lesson. Okay, so you'll recognize this from last lesson, making more sentences in Russian. We covered last lesson that the word to be does not necessarily exist in Russian. Now, it does exist, but for our purposes of learning Russian, translating it, we can assume that it doesn't necessarily exist. Okay, so you know the word это, which is great. We learned that last lesson. We learned how to say this is a whatever, this is that, this is this, whatever. But we can say more sentences in Russian with just very few more words. And that's what we're going to do this lesson. We're going to learn just a few more words, and we're going to be able to say way more sentences. Okay, so some examples are going to be like, which room? This is a big watch. She's a good woman. Where's the bathroom? Which car? That one. Okay, so what we need to know for this lesson is going to be only 5 words, and most of them we covered in the last lesson. Okay, first word, it means woman. Женщина. Женщина. Okay, женщина. Next word, машина. Машина. Car. Next word, туалет. Туалет. You could say bathroom for this one. Okay, toilet, but commode. Bathroom is what it means. Okay, туалет. Next, часы. Not chassis, часы. Okay, the stress is on the и. Часы. That means watch or clock. Okay. Last word is комната. Комната. That means room. Like a room, as in like a classroom, a physical room. Okay. Cool. Женщина, машина, туалет, часы, комната. All right. Memorize those, and we're on to the next. These are going to be some supplementary words. You got to pay attention, especially this third one. Okay, but the first word is tam. Tam. These are equally as important as like eta, because a lot of times you could just be like tam, and that's a sentence by itself. Okay, in response to something, or maybe if you're just gesturing tam. Tam means over there. Tam, tam, over there. Okay. The next word, где, где, где. Где, you should be careful when saying this word. It means where. Где, you should be careful to not, in English, we don't have consonant clusters like this. Russian is unique in the sense that it has like very like sharp consonant clusters. When you say a G and a D in English, we have a tendency to put a vowel sound in between to soften it. Almost like an Italian trying to speak English, we would say gadia, gadia. There's no UH sound in between the G and the D, so there's no need to put that vowel sound there. So be cognizant of that when you're trying to pronounce this word. It's not gadia, it's gia, 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 gia. Okay, not gadia, which, I mean, well, that sounded pretty good. Gia. Just be cognizant not to put that extra vowel sound there. That's sometimes that can sound weird and can cause problems later on in your pronunciation if you don't learn it right when you're first getting started. Okay. Now, this next word, нет. You should know its opposite, which is yes, which is да. Okay, so да and нет, yes and no. Нет here, I put it here just to say that when you say нет in some contexts in Russian, not only can it mean no, but it could mean like the opposite of это. That means there is no. You can say like here нет, and then whatever it is that you want to say that there isn't anything. Okay, so we know that niet means no, but it can also mean like there is none, almost like the opposite of это. But we're not going to cover that here because of a grammatical reason that we'll learn later. But what you do need to know is that there's another word that means, that is pronounced nia. Okay, nia functions as a negating word, unlike niet, which means like the absence of. So this would be это не whatever would mean this is not a whatever. It's different than saying нет because one is saying that this is not a blank. The other is saying there are no blank here. All right. And even in English, one is this is not a blank. The other is there are no blank. And then you would say blanks because you would just pluralize it. You would say there's no blanks here. There's no blanks here. Think about it conceptually that way. When you say niet, there's going to be a grammatical change when you say there is no whatever, and that's why I decided to save it for later lessons. We're going to focus on nia in this lesson. Okay, so jot these down. All right, and remember them because we're going to get into it right now. So recapping kind of a little bit from the last lesson, это, it means this is. Okay, so those 5 words that we learned. Let's go down the line. Это женщина. Literally, what does that mean? This is woman. This is woman. This is woman because, see that red point down there? In Russian, you do not have to say the or a or a before a noun. That means there is no the woman, there is no a woman, it's just woman. So in the Russian language, when you're speaking it, you don't say this is a woman, this is the woman. There's no distinction from that. You just say this woman. This is woman. That's all you have to say. And typically, like when you're writing it and it means that, you would put that little dash in between. That's just kind of like the written this is, okay, because it's easier to see like the visually. Oh, that's saying that this is whatever. All right. So это женщина. This is a woman, or this is the woman. Это женщина. Next, это машина. Это машина. This is a car. Это туалет. Это туалет. This is the bathroom, or this is a bathroom. Это, do you know how to say it? Watch. Это часы. Это часы. This is a watch. Это room. Do you know how to say room? Это комната. Это комната. All right, very good. So, just to stress once more, there is no there is no the. You just say this woman, this car, this bathroom, this watch or clock, this room. You don't say a or the. Boom. Okay, so once again, very important, because when we start adding adjectives and we start moving the words around, because Russian is unique in the grammar, where you can say things in different orders and have it all mean the same thing because it's clear from the grammar. There's no a, there's no the, okay? It's going to depend on the context. Specifically, it's going to depend on the context of what you want it to say in English, because you were born with the gift of being able to understand and speak English fluently, so you don't need to worry about messing that up or saying the wrong one. You're always going to say the appropriate a or the. So when you're translating, it would be easier to say like, this actually sounds more like this is a woman, instead of saying this is the woman. I could ask you, это женщина, and that means this is a woman? And I said, да, это женщина. Yeah, this is a woman. I said, this is a woman. If I was like, это женщина, this is the woman. See, if I said this is the woman, yeah, this is the woman. It's a little bit different if I was asking you like, this is a woman versus is this the woman? Different nuances there in English that can be conveyed in Russian, but they're just conveyed in different ways. Grammatically, on the left-hand side, this is a woman, this is the woman. That's how you say it, okay? And right now, that's all you need to know. Okay, so now let's implement these other words, which are super easy, and it's almost the same as saying это, okay? We're going to say the woman is over there. How you say that in Russian is you just say over there, woman. Там женщина. Okay, so let's break it down logically. We see right here, I'm going to use my mouse to point it out, the, remember that doesn't really exist in Russian. And then to be, this is a conjugation, the third person singular of to be. To be turns to I am, you are, he, she, it is. In this case, it is the woman. The woman is. Well, let's X this out and X this out, because they don't exist in Russian, like I said on the previous slides. Woman over there. That's what you're left with in Russian. So how does that look in Russian? Over there, woman. In fact, you could also say woman over there, and it means the same thing. There's just slight different nuances. Там женщина. Там женщина. There's a woman over there. That's what that means. there is a woman over there, or the woman is over there, or there is, see how I'm saying it now? There is a woman over there. I might not even say that in English. A woman is over there. A woman is over there. A woman is over there. Tam женщина. There is a woman over there. Tam женщина. The woman is over there. Tam женщина. It's all the same. Okay, so the next we're going to put in that little nia negator. That's going to follow the word это. Okay, and that can't change. Okay, это не машина. Это не машина. We can't say машина это не, or не это машина. No, it's always going to say это не машина. The same way I guess you could say not that a car is. I mean, you might be able to understand that and parse that together, but with the negations, it's going to follow whatever it is that it's going to precede whatever it is that's negating. And before it was going to precede the negation is going to be the verb that's getting negated. Or at least, excuse me, the for saying это, it's going to, это will precede nia for this, what you're trying to say. For there is, that is not a car. Это не машина. And that means this is not a car, or that is not a car, that is not the car, that is not a car. This is what that means. Это не машина. Okay? So going to the next one. Where's the bathroom? Где туалет? Где туалет? Simply где. Where? Bathroom. Boom. You apply that same thing. Is and the doesn't exist. You cross them out. Where? Bathroom. Boom. Где туалет? Now you got it. Where's the clock? Same thing. Где часы? Где часы? Где часы? Where's the clock? Where's the watch? Okay? Where is a clock? Where is the clock? It's the same. That is not a room. Это не комната. Это не комната. This is not a room. That is not a room. All right? That's how you say it. So, let's get into it. Now, we'll do a quick test, and we'll say, how do you say, where is the room in Russian? Okay, so if you're struggling, follow along with me. We know how to say where, so we'll say где. All right, and if you got that part, awesome job. If you remember the word for room, комната. Excellent job. Is and the don't exist. You don't need to rack your brains. Где комната? You got it. Where? Room. Где комната? Where's the room? Где комната? All right, the clock is over there. The, we know that doesn't exist, and is doesn't exist. So we put in часы там. Часы там. Or you could also say там часы. All right, cool. Молодец. Good job. That is not a woman. Uh-oh. Это не женщина. Это не женщина. Это не женщина. That's not a woman. Это не женщина. Okay. Where is the car? Где машина? Где машина? Where's the car? This is the bathroom. This is not supposed to be a trick. Это, okay, this is туалет. Вот так просто. This is the bathroom. Это туалет. Молодец. If this is what you got, then you are doing so good. That's it. Где комната? Там часы. Это не женщина. Где машина? Это туалет. Thanks for watching.